Today it's time for a best of 5 series of professional StarCraft 2, and what I've got for you is a Zerg versus Terran, where in game number 1, we find ourselves on Acropolis. Spawning here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, I'm playing with the blue Terran SCVs. From the Netherlands, we are looking inside of the main base of uThermal, who for some reason is playing under the nickname Thermostat. I have no idea. He's also in Clan Easy for the Netherlands. I have no idea what's going on. His opponent in the opposite corner with the red Zerg drones. From Italy, we have none other than Reynor. Alrighty. So this should be an excellent series. Best of 5 series means that the first player to win 3 maps is the one who comes out victorious. Reynor certainly looking extremely good recently. As you probably are aware, he is going to be part of the BlizzCon top 16. And actually, by the time you're watching this video, maybe the series has already been played in the round of 16. Or his couple of series that he will need to play. I'm currently in the process of preparing a few of videos in advance, as I will be flying out to BlizzCon over in Anaheim, California in just a couple of days myself. So I've been busy preparing videos and, making sure that I've got some content to go up while I'm away. But in the round of 16, Reynor is in a group where 2 people move on, together with Classic Hero and Hero Marine. So I've got a feeling he actually has a pretty good shot in that group. I mean, he kind of dodged some of the biggest names, I suppose. I mean, not to say that Hero Marine, Hero, and Classic especially are weak opponents, but I do think that that is a group that Reynor can move on from. So maybe by the time you're watching this, it already has been played, but I'm certainly going to be setting my alarm at like 5 in the morning, okay? Over here in Europe, the game's over in Korea. The round of 16 is being played over in Korea. They're gonna be played at 5 a.m., but I'll certainly be setting my alarm. I'm really cheering for this man because he's been ridiculously impressive over the last year in particular, winning a couple of the premier WCS events, which is also the reason how he managed to seat himself for the BlizzCon round of 16. So I'm really excited to see what this man is going to bring in 2020 and going into the future as well. uThermal, not quite making it actually to the World Championship Series Grand Finals this time around. Actually, he hasn't really had the greatest year in 2019 altogether, which is quite surprising because I think when you talk about like best Terran players in the world, his name does come up, right? I mean, I guess his main competition when it comes to Terran players outside of South Korea is obviously Special and Hero Marine from Germany, so Special obviously from Mexico. Yeah, he's one of the very best, but he hasn't really been able to I guess, put 1 and 1 together in 2019. We'll see what he's going to do going into 2020 as well, because he's by no means a weak player. I've complimented his micro many times before in the past. He's ridiculously good at just simply controlling his units. For years, he was known as that bio-based Terran player who was just playing the same strategy every single game. But nowadays he does go for a variety of builds. We've been seeing him play bio into mech and just a variety of strategies altogether. So we'll see what he wants to bring to the table in this series. Pretty quick Roach Warren here though, guys. Normal timing for that Roach Warren is like 3:45. Maybe 3:30 if you want to be safe. That is like a 3-minute Roach Warren, and there's actually 2 additional gases coming up as well. Reynor did decide to go for the lair, so I wonder what he wants to go for. I mean, these gases are super quick. He didn't actually take the 3rd hatchery either, which is scouted here by uThermal. He's not going to be sending that Reaper back around the main base, but already this is predicted by Reynor, even though he doesn't really know exactly. I mean, he had the Overlord in vision. He knows when it's going to be jumping up there, and good surround. Ooh! You know what? Oh, he needs to scout this. He really needs to see this. I mean, there's nothing to see in the main, though. I guess he sees the lair, which is important. He sees the lack of a spire. You start deducing what's going on. At the same time, a couple of Hellions actually made their way towards the natural. Excellent move there by uThermal. Really critical that he figures out what is happening here. And even though it costs him, I guess, one of the Hellions here as well as that Reaper, it's 100% worth it. So what did he scout? Well, he saw the lair, he saw the Roach Warren, he saw the double gas, he saw the lack of Zergling speed, he saw the lack of a 3rd base. This means immediately that he's going to need a lot of defenses. So he doesn't know if it's going to be a Nidus Worm. That's the reason why there's a bunker inside of the main base. He did go for an extremely quick 3rd command center. This 3rd command center was actually built before the starport. So this may actually bite him in the butt here in just a little bit. There's no wall at the front either. Does he have enough units to actually defend against this? Maybe this is just one of those build order disadvantages. Reynor is going to follow this up with a 3rd base. He didn't really scout anything. He doesn't know about the quick 3rd CC, but this may very well be a build order advantage just by simply getting that expansion. Obviously, uThermal got way less army. So there's Roaches coming out. There they go. Roach speed is finishing up in just a couple of seconds. We do now actually see the fusion core coming up out of all units. I wouldn't have actually expected the fusion core at this point. A little bit confusing. I would love to see some Banshees. I think Banshees would be great. Much better than Liberators at this point in the game. I mean, if you can afford it, that is. We do see the supply depot finishing up here in just a second as well, but this all hurts him quite a bit. The Ravagers are already ready to go. There is that siege tank, though. That siege tank is huge. Yeah, that siege tank is absolutely massive. If we can get a second siege tank, that would be that would be awesome. That would be great for him. He's still actually pretending that this is going to be a Nidus worm instead of the main base. Good councils right there on those two supply depots. Not really relying on them anyway. He's already building one in the back. But this is a really big deal. This is actually a surprisingly uncommitted attack so far by Reynor, right? I mean, he's still making units. He's actually now getting the tunneling claws upgrade as well as Burrow. So maybe he wants to try and see if he can get underneath this Terran army instead. Not really an upgrade that we see all too much. He's instead just going to go, by the way, uThermal that is, straight up into a battlecruiser. I mean, if you get the BC out, it's going to be great. Maybe he's just feeling really confident that he's already held this. Man, I really feel like a Banshee or two would have been amazing. What a cheeky little play here by Mr. Thermostat. Single siege tank and really only a couple of bunkers is what he's got to defend here. Totally manageable, apparently. Now, here's the thing, though. uThermal doesn't know that there's still about 1 million roaches right outside of his vision. He probably expected the Zerg player to go back to droning and that third base a little while ago. He didn't see the third hatchery, but there's only a couple of workers there. There's actually significantly more economy here for... Oh, that scan is huge. That scan is absolutely massive. There's significantly more economy here for the Terran player. The tunneling claws was scouted, and that now means that Reynor has to fight into a choke. Once again, scan being utilized, trying to have a couple of roaches go underneath to pick up that siege tank. But did uThermal play maybe just a little bit too greedy? He does manage to hold on to that bunker for a little while longer. SCV is going for that massive repair all around the structure. The battlecruiser, though, dealing a lot of damage here. Even if you lose a bunch of SCVs, keep in mind there's still a lot of those mules available as well. I think these roaches will be deflected here. Good scan once again. Also, lowering those supply depots is huge. If there was a group of those roaches inside of the main, that would be way more SCVs lost. But even though a lot of SCVs are being killed here, this is all manageable, I think, for the time being. Once again, because of that really aggressive mule situation. Now, here's when it becomes an issue, though. 31 SCVs. That's a lot. Only 24 workers right now remain, and Zerg is still just flooding in more and more units. I really think a couple of Banshees would have been way better than having this battlecruiser. I don't get it. Here we go. The roaches are going to be able to get into the main base. There is that one missile turret going up as well, but it looks like there's still a scan available. More and more SCVs fall as Thermostat is trying to produce more inside of that natural. uThermal trying to keep as many of those SCVs going, but it certainly is not a good spot for him to be in. Keep in mind, there's going to be a lot more economy on the back of this as well. Reynor is now adding on more and more spore crawlers. He's adding on a bunch of queens as well. Not a very large chance that these SCVs are going to be able to continue mining the natural for much longer either. There we go. BCs go across. He's going to try and see if he can potentially deal some counterattack aggression, which I do like, but that means that the Terran's main base is going to be in a lot of trouble. Roaches right now inside of the main as well. Siege tank gets picked off immediately. There's not enough money here to get himself a second battlecruiser, so instead it's just going to be a Raven that's going to join the fray right now too. I think at this point, all Reynor needs to do is hold on to one of his bases, and that's exactly what he's doing. Look at that. There's a spore crawler forest over at the third base. Drones are falling, but SCVs are falling in much bigger numbers, and it looks like this game number 1 is starting off very aggressively. uThermal leaves the game, and Reynor obtains the victory. Alrighty, so game number 2 will take us to Winter's Gate LE. Now, I gotta be honest with you, I really felt like uThermal did a great job scouting what was going on there in the early game, but then he responded initially, but then he went straight up to that battlecruiser. I really feel like he would have, if he would have spent the money, right, on a second siege tank and like one Banshee initially and then another Banshee afterwards, wouldn't that have been way better? I'm really doubting the choice right there of the battlecruiser. I guess the advantage of going for the battlecruiser is that if you manage to get it out, right, and you manage to defend, you can go instantly for the counterattack too, which obviously is one of the scariest things you can do at that point in the game, and it's one of those things that creates value the longer that the game goes on. But generally speaking, those games don't last too long, right? So I'm not entirely sure about the battlecruiser. Anyways, game number 2, we find ourselves on Winter's Gate. It's the map with the big bubbles, the big slowing zones. Actually curious to see where Reynor wants to expand on this map. We've seen a bunch of Zerg players taking this base as their third, and some of them actually have been expanding vertically instead. We'll see where he wants to expand here first. This is one of the maps actually that we usually don't see all too often, but it's one of the maps obviously that the pro gamers still practice on very regularly because, well, what on the off chance you're playing a Grand Finals, and the Grand Finals, map number 7 is going to be Winter's Gate, and you've never played it before. That would be a disaster, right? In a best of 7 series, you cannot veto any maps. In best of 3s and best of 5s, however, you can. So I guess they vetoed some of the other maps that they dislike even more than this one. General consensus, it seems, is that most pro gamers don't really like these slowing bubbles very much. I'm not a pro gamer myself, but I gotta tell you, I'm not a big fan of playing on this map either. But so far, I've been really enjoying watching the games on this map. So we'll see what's going to end up going down here. So much safer opener this time around from uThermal so far. Actually, it's the exact same. We'll see if he wants to go for the barracks, into the factory, into the third command center. Or if he wants to go barracks, factory, starport, third command center. Obviously, that didn't help him very much in the previous game either. I was a little bit lucky right there for Reynor. I think if it would have been the other way around, if it was barracks, factory, starport, he would have been able to get that, you know, that battlecruiser out like 30 seconds sooner, and that all adds up very, very quickly. All right, so a lot of things went wrong in that game number 1. I don't think that's something to be all too worried about though, because it's one of those builds that we likely won't see a second time here, right? It's not very likely that Reynor is going to do the exact same strategy once again. Maybe he knew that uThermal enjoys going for the quick third CC on that map in particular, on Acropolis. I'm not entirely sure. That was a little bit of a strange game. I don't think I liked the build too much, that roach push. And I don't think I really liked the response from uThermal very much either. So we'll see what this game is going to look like instead. Now, here's the battle for the Zerglings and that Creep Tumor. Creep Tumor put in a very safe space. Third base, by the way, taken in like the little pocket right over here. This is one of the more risky locations. So I believe it was Impact that we saw on this same map against Cure, if I'm not mistaken, who decided to go for this base northern of the natural. I like this one actually. I quite like it. I've played it a couple times myself. The issue with taking this one over here is that every once in a while you have a Terran player that goes for like a siege tank kind of push early on, and they put tanks right over here, and then they drop marines on the other side of the rocks, and you're never really going to be able to touch it. And obviously Reynor is known as that player who's extremely good at Zergling run-bys and harass in general, but you know what? In this series, he's loving his Roach Warren. Once again, a very, very quick Roach Warren. Not quite as quick as the previous game. 330, that is. I wonder if he's going to take a second gas. This is actually a build that's pretty cool. If you go for a second gas, yeah, there it is. Okay, you can actually get yourself a couple of Ravagers out and then reinforce with tons of Zerglings instead. So there is going to be link speed this time, but it's not going to be with a lair. The issue is, though, right now it's scouted. Zerg can just decide to not even commit to this in the first place and just treat it as a defensive Roach Warren instead. By the way, in the meantime, on the other side of the map, and you know what? This is actually great for uThermal. It's not actually your standard 1-1-1. It's actually a 2-1-1 right now, it seems like. So 2 barracks, 1 factory, 1 starport with Stimpack. Now, Stimpack finishes up right around the same time as a Roach push would come in. This is not quite your typical 2-1-1. There's a little bit of a different route in getting there, which may very well be the reason why this is working out. Normally, when you see it's a couple of Hellions in the early game, you assume it's going to be a 1-1-1 where the factory is going to be, or rather the starport is going to be the one with the tech lab for at least a little bit. But in this game, uThermal immediately started up Stimpack. Is he going to try? He is going to try, but this is like a very much so middle of the road kind of push so far, okay? Because he's making drones, he's making roaches, he's going for an Evo chamber, he's going for a lair. So this is definitely not going to be an all-in here for Reynor, which it certainly could have been. He's even now going for the +1 missile upgrade. What a strange little style so far. Spore Crawler's coming up right now as well. I mean, really not something you need at this point, but it's actually a triple barracks right now. Very interesting. Okay. You see that? That was so silly. So that whole roach push right here was literally just to scare uThermal. He's like, you know what? You've been scouting it. I know that you're a great player, so you're likely going to be able to defend it. So I'm not even going to try and execute it actually anymore. We'll transition right now to watch what seems to be a bit of a later roach base push. So he's actually been droning. He only made a couple of roaches. He's on 4 gases here. Roach speed coming up. Okay, that explains it. It's a Nidus worm. So this is just like basically your classical Roach speed +1 attack timing, the one that I teach pretty much everyone when I first talk to them when I'm doing my StarCraft 2 coaching. It's just a different variation to get there, and he's going straight up into the Nidus Worm with it as well. Very interesting. All right, uThermal, adding on additional production. Third command center is already done, obviously, landed over at the third. We see the engineering base researching 1-1. 2 medivacs just loaded up full of marines. That's a lot of supply. That's currently on the other side of the map. And that's a Nidus Worm inside of the main base where it can't be scouted. Guys, this is a bit of a problem. He's gonna pop out a couple of units out of the Nidus Worm to defend against this shenanigans, but the worm is already up inside of that main base. Now, since he did need to remove units out of the worm to defend against this drop, maybe this coincidentally will work out. Roach is right now over at the third base as well, forcing these units to leave the area. But keeping these marines over here is actually quite nice because it now, well, reduces the threat inside of the main base. uThermal in trouble, taking a lot of damage inside of the main, while simultaneously pushing over at the third base as well. And this is what is very difficult for a Terran player to deal with, because, yeah, he can defend the third, yeah, he can defend the main, but he has a hard time doing both at once. Excellent pickup right there, saves the siege tank. Putting that on the ramp over here would actually be pretty sweet, like right in this little pocket. There it is. Very good stuff. And actually, you know what? Stim right now moving forward as well. The command center scouting exactly what's going on. Great micro there by uThermal. In the meantime, the Roaches inside of the main base found themselves a little bit trapped. 1-1 is going to finish. Looks like they're actually going to scramble back towards the safety of that Nidus. I agree. If they got caught over there killing a couple of SCVs, that's great and all, but all of the Roaches would easily go down. Question is, though, is Reynor going to stop with the aggression? It looks like that's not the case. He's still making more and more units, and even right now, right, even after losing a bunch of SCVs, we still see a good economy here for uThermal, still sitting at 53 workers. Reynor, though, heavily ahead when it comes to the supply count. I've got a feeling it mostly comes down right now to the siege tanks and the corrosive biles. That is an awful lot of Zerg, though. Whew, he's been making a ton of units. That is in the main base, once again gets killed. He wants to go for the 1-2 punch, but with these Marines dedicated to killing tumors or killing those Niduses inside of the main base. Nidai? It's definitely not Nidai, Lowko. Niduses. There you go. But you know, with that hit squad over here, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of worms inside of the main base anymore, as they will just simply get picked off immediately. So instead, Reynor right now is executing a different push. Looks like he's splitting up his Roaches, maybe to go into the third base while it's landing, and then also to go into the natural. Maybe simultaneously try and go for that worm in the main base once again. Stim being activated, pulling all of these units away. At the same time now, the Roaches moving into the natural. One siege tank falls immediately, and that now means that the Roaches on the right-hand side can start moving in again as well if they really want to. Nidus Worm inside of the main base now being activated. The Marines pulled off duty as they were forced to defend over in the main instead, or in the natural. And that means right now that the Nidus Worm inside of that main base will finish. Reynor is all over the place. He's running uThermal in circles, and while uThermal is making a decent effort holding on, I feel like he's being outplayed up to this point. I mean, he's being forced in so many different areas, and while he technically has the army to defend against this, I'm not too fond of all of this just yet. I mean, those Marines really needed to be inside of that main base, shutting down those Nidus Worms, right? Like, you want to play whack-a-mole with the Niduses. You really need to make sure you shut them down as quickly as possible. Now, in the grand scheme of things, though, even though I've been a little bit critical here of uThermal, he has been holding on. I just feel like he has to be holding on harder than that. Look at Jimmy right there, sleeping on the job. Jimmy, wake up, dude! Okay, you know what? Oh my god, once again, Roach Burrow. Okay, excellent scan. Great scan right there by uThermal. Roach Burrow should not be working in these kind of scenarios. Jimmy got killed as well. He got punished for his problems. I'm not too surprised there, because, I mean, sleeping on the job, that cannot happen. But generally speaking, right, at this point in the game, this should be a push that's held for Terran a long time ago. Because on paper, the Bio Tank Opener is the counter to this build. Now, he's doing a good job holding on so far. Oh god. I don't know if you want to unburrow there necessarily. No, I don't think that was the greatest move. But on paper, this should have been held a long time ago. Now, even though there's a lot of units that have gone down, and even though the trades haven't been phenomenal here for uThermal, he's still built up a really strong force, right? And if he can fight straight up in the face of the Zerg, he's gonna be in a really good spot. Now, how many tanks have died? 3 in total. That's a big deal. Imagine if, like, 1 extra would stay alive. That would be very, very nice. Still though, here's that slowing bubble that we were talking about earlier. Siege tank in the back did get picked off. Roach is trying to get as much done here as possible. And even though uThermal was running around his bases for quite some time there, and his defense initially wasn't that great, right now, he is the one who obtains the victory. It's pretty crazy to me how stubborn Reynor was playing that, right? I mean, so I've done a lot of those roach pushes myself as well, and generally speaking, if your opponent is going stimmed Marines, you just sort of walked into what is most often a build order loss. Now, obviously, it can still work out if they give you easy corrosive bios, but Reynor there was like, you know what, I'm just gonna hit you not at 2 angles, but I'll try 3 angles at once instead. And he did a little bit of damage here and there, but he never really, you know, held off of the roach button, right? Like, he made a couple extra drones, I think, but it was mostly just roaches. And then the inevitable counterattack for uThermal just simply overwhelmed him. Now, I'm not sure exactly what his win condition was there. I guess his win condition that he came up with was like, okay, I'm going to try and pull you apart at so many different places that you're not going to be able to keep up with my multitasking, but at this level of play, that shouldn't really be happening, right? uThermal showing that he's plenty good in order to keep up with that, and even though he really could have done a better job, I think, if I can be critical. I really think he could have done a better job at defending that. He managed to hold on eventually. His army was too big, and well, he just simply stomped over the Roach Ravager force at that point in the game. If Zerg doesn't have splash damage, if there's no like fungal growth or banelings or you know, Zergling run-bys or something like that, if you're just taking a straight up Roach Ravager fight against Marine Marauder Siege Tank Medevac, it's just not gonna work out, right? Like once the upgrades finish and all that, Marines get so much more powerful, especially the longer that the game goes on. Roaches just sort of fall off. And yeah, that game definitely went in favor right there of uThermal in the end, but I feel like partially due to the stubbornness right here of the young Italian. There's gonna once again be that hatch gas pool here for Reynor. We'll see if he makes a Roach Warren whatsoever this game. I wonder if, like, considering the round of 16 and you know, the top 16 of BlizzCon still needs to be played as of me recording this video, right? It may have been played by the time you watched it, I don't know. Depending on when I push this video live, right? Maybe he's also, since he knows his opponents are definitely going to be checking out this series, right? He knows that his opponents are going to be studying these replays as well. Maybe he's trying to throw a bunch of random builds out there to make him look really scary, which would be a very clever way of playing. Because if you're just about to play the biggest tournament of the year in StarCraft 2, right? I believe it's like a $700,000 prize pool or so. You may not necessarily want to show your best games. Which may sound silly, but you don't want to give your opponents that you're going to be facing off against too much information when playing in like a smaller tournament online like this one is. This was originally casted on the base Trade TV channel. I'm not particularly sure which exact series this was or which exact tournament this was, but yeah, it's not surprising if he wouldn't want to show his best series and his best strategies necessarily right now. So maybe that would explain the stubbornness as well. Great pickup right there actually by uThermal, getting that creep tumor. It's gonna be super quick overlord speed here. I like this a lot. So he went for the metabolic boost upgrade, that's Zergling speed, into leaving the drones in gas and then going straight into the overlord speed upgrade. And now he's pulling 2 drones off gas at about 50. Very interesting. We'll see what he wants to do with it. Now, obviously, this map is massive. Ephemeron, in general, is pretty big. So I guess scouting here is important. To be fair, in that previous game, uThermal also showed some weird styles, right? Like, essentially, that was like a 3-1-1, which is more often than not like a Terran versus Protoss build order. Not so much a Zerg versus Terran build order, but it worked out there for him in the end. Okay, so here we go. Reynor is going to be able to scout with that Overlord. 2 Overlords being utilized right now. It will see that indeed it's just going to be that very classical 1-1-1 opener. Double gases. Did you see him double check right there? The gases too. Nicely done there. uThermal, in the meantime, is scouting on the other side of the map. He confirmed now that compared to game number 1, this time around there is that standard timed 3rd base. I guess the Reaper did end up falling. That means that the Hellions right now are the ones with the task of joining in. Now, that's interesting. Okay, I was going to say, that was only 5 Hellions? How did that happen? But no, it's going to be 6. One of them joined in just a little bit later. Bailing Nest coming up this time around here for Reynor. He's going to go for the lair here as well at about 420. So 420 lair, 420 Bailing Nest-ish. We see a Spore Crawler being built here as well. That one is timed out so it can deal with any kind of Banshees or more importantly, Liberators as Banshees aren't very common right now in the current meta of StarCraft 2, but judging by what uThermal is making so far, he really hasn't bothered with any of those Stargate units, right? Like, I mean, he made a single battlecruiser, which was nice and all, but nothing too aggressive when it comes to Liberator or Banshee aggression. All of the games so far, it looks like he wants to play some bio-focused game, right? Actually, in game number 1, he may have added on additional factories. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, he wants to definitely once again go for Stimpak. So barracks are being built here. I've never really seen someone go Stimpak and then transition towards mech. It seems like that is not something that's being done just yet, although I wouldn't be surprised if that's going to be the case. But now, judging by the fact that there's double engineering bay here coming up as well for uThermal, he's certainly going to stick around on that bio-based army for the foreseeable future. Centrifugal hooks already being researched here for Reynor. He managed to get himself that macro hatchery going here too, pretty early on actually. That's a very quick macro hatchery. Interesting. I wonder if that's due to a little bit of miss micro. I didn't quite pay attention there to the supply count. Maybe he hit a bit of a supply block. That's really the only time we see players going for such a quick, you know, hatchery. But fair enough. It's gonna go for the additional gases. Only just now these evolution chambers. Very quick. Reynor was actually one of the players who really popularized. And by the way, there was a Liberator out. Even though I was saying there wasn't a Liberator, there it is, guys. It was there all along. He got a couple of kills. Yeah, even though he really popularized those quick evolution chamber upgrades, it looks like recently he has been steering away from that a little bit more. One of the strategies, for example, that I've seen Stefano play is that he goes for really, really quick upgrades in those evos and then the Baling Nest and Lair afterwards. Not the case in this game. So one of the reasons why Reynor's counterattacks are always really, really strong is because he got those upgrades very early. In this game, it will not be the case. So we may very well be up here for a more macro-focused match. Oh, these aliens. Oh my god, they may just stumble across a really juicy clump of Zerglings. Ooh, the Lynx immediately jumped away, but that certainly was still a good trade there for the Terran player. Creep spread, by the way, moving very quick. This is the downside of going for bio-based forces. You're not really going to be able to contain the creep nearly as easily when you don't have like a Banshee or a couple of Hellions, you know, that are able to actually roam the perimeter. I mean, there are a couple of Hellions available here, but that's not a big enough clump to really get too much done. And this creep spread is going to go across the map really quick. Like, you blink twice, the map is going to be covered in creep. +2/+2. Should start up here in a sec. We already see +2 weapons. +2 armor upgrade is pretty expensive. uThermal right now, though, with Stimpak finishing up, is going to be able to really get rid of a lot of these creep tumors, and he's going to be able to execute a pretty nice timing. Now, Bailing Speed is super early this game, right? So, Bailing Speed is done. You will see it right now for the first time, too. Centrifugal Hooks is spotted. Oh my god, the Queens taking a lot of shots. Love the siege tanks actually on the ramp. I mean, that's very greedy and very risky if you know your opponent is going to go. Actually, hold that thought, because there's Zerglings over at the third base. This should be cleaned up, actually. Ooh, nice surrounds. Oh, you know what? That worked out just fine. Oh my god, dude, that was a Zergling massacre. 76 Lynx have already gone down here. Woo, that was some beautiful positioning there by uThermal. But I was going to say, if you go up against, like, for example, corrosive biles, right? Putting your siege tank in a clump like that, very risky. This right now opens up the opportunity, though, for uThermal to go straight across the map and potentially kill his opponent. I mean, there are a lot of Banelings available. He already cleared out some of the creep. Here we go. Siege tanks are still sieging. Lings and Banes are rolling forward. Well, Zerglings can't roll, I suppose, but there's a lot of them, though, in total. One of the tanks still remains. That one will be picked off as well. Good splits here by uThermal. At the same time, looks like the Zerglings actually made their way across the map, and they now killed the third hatchery, or the third command center, rather. That's a big deal. Dude, that's so crazy. Actually, like, killing that before it lifts is pretty ridiculous. Still, though, is there enough right now to remain for the Terran player? He needs to pick up these Banelings. Ooh, okay, just barely picks up and gets on out of there. That's a disaster, actually. Like, not lifting up the third command center in time is a big problem, because that right now forces uThermal into an all-in. uThermal, you're in a little bit of trouble. Reynor always strong with those counterattacks. He's picking up a couple of the Banelings for relatively nothing. I mean, maybe a couple of scans or a couple of units here and there. This is where you can really shine, though, if you're a micro-based player. You see those splits? Needs to execute doing that a couple more times. Oh my god, he's doing it. I think he's doing it. Oh my god. Well, Siege Tank, actually, right now being picked off. So that right now means that these Marines are really the only ones remaining, and I don't think there's enough. Reinforcing Marines coming up right now as well. There's no third command center available. A lot of Marines ended up dying as well. Banelings once again trying to morph in. Good target firing there by uThermal. Siege Tank joining in from the back as well, but without a third base, he's gonna run out of steam. He needs to win with this push. He's reinforcing extremely aggressively. Lings and Banes are being morphed in as well, and you know what? He's maybe getting something done here. That Siege Tank, once again, shielding for a lot of these Marines. Drones are starting to go down as well. Fourth hatchery was already picked off. A lot more Terran units are being produced. These medevacs right now completely out of energy, so they're not really going to be able to defend this this bio army nearly as easily anymore either. Liberators right now joining the fray. This is a ridiculous fight. He's been fighting for like 3 minutes right now, and he's actually pushing forward. This never happens at this level of play. uThermal showing off what kind of skills he's got when it comes to microing and controlling his units. Fighting against roly-poly Banes on creep is extremely difficult. Still, no third command center. He is all in. He needs to finish this game with his army right here, right now. Another Siege Tank joining the fray as well. A couple of these Lings and Banes move off creep. They have been spotted as well. Reinforcing Terran units do get picked off. As long as Reynor doesn't get the big connection, he should be in a lot of trouble. Well, the fourth hatchery technically still lives. It actually purposefully has not been killed. Here we go. Banelings moving forward. They're looking for that juicy Marine clump as well. One of the tanks taking a lot of damage. The tanks still stay alive. But I think the Terran army may very well have fallen out of pace. I mean, I feel like I've said that a dozen times, but not every time the reinforcements come in. Dude, if he actually does this, that would be the sickest game of TVZ I've seen in a while. Oh my god. I've got nerd chills. I just want to look at this and admire. Oh, he runs away again. Picks up some... Oh, dude, no! No way! Okay. Okay. That was one of the most beautiful executions of microing on creep I've seen recently. And the only reason why this happened in the first place was just because he lost the third command center, right? Oh my god. That was insane. You know how difficult that is to execute? Like, seriously. If I would have tried that, I would have lost all of my Marines to like 2 Banelings, and I would have felt bad about myself, but I'm like, whatever. Shouldn't have lost the third base in the first place anyway. Man, that was sick. What a play right there by the Dutch Terran player. So sick. That was really, really cool. Can't believe he managed to actually win that one. It barely ever happens at the highest level of play where players actually manage to obtain the victory after being down literally 2 bases. I mean, that was 4 base Zerg going up against 2 base Terran, right? A couple of SCVs ended up going down as well. The army composition obviously was good, and those upgrades really did come into play, by the way. I don't know if the Zerg actually ended up finishing 2-2 by the end. I didn't actually double check for that, but uThermal definitely had a nice set of upgrades on those Marines himself. And he microed like an absolute champ, just barely keeping all of those units alive, reinforcing at the correct timings when he knew that the Zerg was still reinforcing their army too, sending the units in groups rather than just singles so they wouldn't just get picked off for free. Really nicely done right there by uThermal. Very impressive game. I mean, if he would have lost that, we would have all thought, okay, yeah, no, like, you lost the third base. That's stupid. You shouldn't have lost the third base. Why'd you do that? But right now, man, you look like a god. Incredible work right there by uThermal. We'll see what goes down in this game. We find ourselves on Thunderbird. It's going to once again be the hatch gas pool. I wonder if Reynor wants to go for that roach push again, man. On this map, it's actually pretty decent. A lot of players like to open up greedy. On this map, obviously, you have 1 ramp leading into the natural and 1... well, it's the same ramp, actually, going over towards the third base, too. There is a second entrance towards the third, but only once you get rid of these mineral patches right over here. So usually, we see players actually opening up pretty aggressively. For example, that build that we saw uThermal going for in game number 1 would be very good in this series on this map, too. So, we'll see. We'll see. I wonder if he wants to go for another Roach Warren. He does pull the drones out of gas. So, no Overlord speed this time around. It's just going to be that circling speed here as soon as he has the money for it. Well, maybe he's actually going to start up the third hatch. Yeah, okay. Goes for the third hatchery first, and then probably will go for link speed after he gets 100 gas. So this is the good old Clash Zerg versus Terran opener. It's what we called it. Even though I don't know if any of those Zerg players are still on the Clash team. The Clash Zergs basically were the one that... actually, I don't really know. No, I don't think so. I'm not entirely sure, though. Anyways, there was this Zerg versus Terran build order where basically you go hatch gas pool, then you pull the drones out of gas at 60. You only leave one of them remaining, and you go for the third base first. It's pretty good because you can still get 2 queens started, 2 sets of Zerglings as well, but then get the third hatchery done, or at least started, by the time that the first Reaper arrives. It's a pretty technical little start, and the nice thing is as well that with link speed at this point in the game, you can actually still get Zergling speed done by the time that 4 Hellions move across the map. So by the time that the first 2 Hellions are done, link speed won't be finished yet, but it's gonna be you know, the biggest trouble once you have 4 Hellions roaming the map. And, well, link speed will finish up for that in time. So it's technically a bit of a greedy build if you go up against, like, say, I don't know, Proxy Barracks or Proxy Reaper or any kind of hyper-aggression from Terran, then you're in a lot of trouble. uThermal actually known to go for those builds from time to time, but, yeah, in this game, it doesn't seem like that is going to be the case. And he did, by the way, go for that build that I suggested. So he did go for the 1 Barracks, 1 Factory, 1 Starport. But he got a 3rd command center in between. Oh well, oh well, oh well. I wonder if he wants to go for that Roach Warren once again here. He would have started it up, I think, if he really wanted to get hyper-aggressive with it. The drones right there back into the gas were scouted, and uThermal is going to be able to now also see that there's no additional gases being built. Ooh, Zergling's almost getting the wraparound, but he's just going to get a full scout of both the natural as well as the main base. So uThermal right now, without wasting a scan, knows everything. And even though that Reaper will pay for that little scouting trip with its life, it still got everything that it needed to get value in this game. All right, so Fusion Core coming up. Fusion Core, very popular on this map too. Looks like the Hellions actually were picked off. But Fusion Core is very strong on this map because of this area right over here. This is dead space where the queens have a hard time reaching. I think it's only like 1 or 2 queens that can reach from like these spots over here. Basically you can poke in and out of the main and the third base quite easily. So if you manage to get across the map, there's a lot of value over there. Reynor did decide to go for a pretty quick lair, all things considered. So maybe he wants to go for like, he does go for spores right now. So the spore timing over here at the very least indicates it is like a battlecruiser counter. If you go up against Liberators or Banshees, this spore would have been too late. So even though he doesn't really know too much, he's taking a bit of a gamble here. Crosses his fingers and hopes that it's not going to be like a Liberator at this point. Shouldn't be a big deal. I mean, obviously the queens can still get in position and all that. But yeah, if he goes for a Spire, actually, I wouldn't mind seeing that at all. He's getting all of the gases right now. Yamato Cannon starts up too, actually. So that's the weapon refit upgrade that unlocks the Yamato Cannon inside of those battle cruisers. Apparently, they're kind of like Teslas, okay? They come pre-installed with the battle cruiser, but you have to like pay for the upgrade. And then you can actually use like autopilot and all that. Anyways, it will be scouted right here by Reynor. Hellions trying to see if they can kill an Overseer. They still can't. There we go. You see the little Fusion Core dance as well. That's when you know the Fusion Core is upgrading. And that's really all the information that you need. Spire comes up immediately here for Reynor. So he's going to be able to get himself some of those Corruptors out to deal with the battle cruisers. Probably not going to be in time, though. 1 BC is out. Is he going to wait for the second one? Ooh, you know what? Normally you technical jump the first one across the map, but I think in this case it's been scouted. So he's like, you know what? I'm going to use that tactical jump defensively. Maybe try and see if I can kill a 4th or maybe a couple of drones. You can see Reynor already waiting, right? He's got the queens ready to defend. He's got the Spire coming up as well. This is very much so uThermal, giving a lot of respect here to Reynor. It's like, you know what? I know you got it scouted. I know you know what's going on. I know that you know that I know that you scouted it, so I'm just going to fly instead. The Hellions try to get a little bit cheeky. Yeah, he's just looking for some value right now. Okay, so it's going to be a mech game, so I like this a lot. This is one of my favorite things about Zerg versus Terran, opposed to, like, for example, Zerg versus Protoss. ZVP can be a pretty plain matchup, and what I mean with that is that it's like a similar army and a similar mid game and a similar late game almost every single time. Now that is cute. Right before the BC comes out. In this matchup, though, there's a million different ways of opening up and a lot of different mid-game armies here as well. I love this about Zerg versus Terran. That's the reason why it's my favorite matchup. I think it's very good. So we saw Bio Terran earlier. Now we see a mech-based Terran instead. I like this a lot better, actually. It looks like uThermal has stepped it up a little after that previous game. Doing an excellent job just simply controlling these units and really, you know, roaming the map and denying some of that creep spread. Something he didn't really do too much in that previous match. He does have, actually, I think he had 6 in that game too, so I'm not sure exactly what the difference is. Now, he's not trying to show it to his opponent, or he's trying to not show it to his opponent just yet, right? So there we go. There's the Cyclone Force. There's the additional Hellions as well. There's 2 ways of dealing with this if you're a Zerg. Either you attack up towards the Hive and you go for quick Vipers, or you go Infestors. You have to go for one or the other, usually, so you can catch that Battle Mech army. So this is what we call Battle Mech. It's a much more mobile version of the classical vanilla version of mech. That's based around siege tanks and Thors and all that. He may very well transition to that a little while later. Battle Cruisers, by the way, deflected really nicely. I don't know exactly how many workers have gone down. 0. 0 workers were killed this game. Considering this is a very macro, or a very harass-heavy game so far, though, by Terran, that's a bit of a problem, right? You know what? I say that normally we see either Infestors or Vipers. In this game, it may just be the A-move army. No centrifugal hooks? Why does he not have Baneling speed? That's an awful lot of Banelings. So Banelings do extremely well against this force. I don't know if you want to move up that ramp, dude. Do you really want to do that? Now keep in mind, there's no siege tanks here. Oh, I think he wants to. That feels like a crazy push to me. Yeah, I think he would have if he had centrifugal hooks. So right now, by the way, a couple of Hellions. Ooh, beautiful move. Did make their way across the map. They just killed 11 drones? 12 maybe? 11 drones, but that's still a very valuable trade. I was going to say, I think he would have pushed if he had centrifugal hooks done. In this case, though, yeah, he's going to transition right now towards the +2/+2 upgrades as well. So, Baneling speed not done there makes it a very difficult army to fight. 4th command center will once again be secured. uThermal did not lose that one. The issue is, though, is he going to be able to get himself a planetary fortress before the Zerg onslaught is here? Well, looks like he just killed the rocks. Nope, never mind. Centrifugal hooks is finishing up pretty quick. It's not a very fast upgrade, but it will be done. Normally, I wouldn't recommend pushing before you get 2-2 done, but he might very well try. He's already setting up a beautiful surround here. There are a couple of siege tanks in the mix right now, too. Liberator also made. We did see a couple of missile turrets set up as well to try and stop those corruptors, but here we go. Lynx and Banes and Swarm units are moving from every single angle. Banelings are hunting for all of those Cyclones and all of those Hellions as well. A lot of damage is being done. Planetary Fortress, though, does finish up in the grand scheme of things. Banelings will also be deflected, but the planetary falls. Battle Cruisers are still alive. Reynor had a massive economy earlier, trying to make that into an advantage right now, right? So he was maxed out. He's like, you know what? I'm just going to try and get that massive army rolling through your defenses. And it kind of worked. I think killing the 4th there was the biggest deal. He also obviously doesn't really allow the Terran right now to go for a lot of counter-aggression anymore. But that was, all things considered, handled pretty well there by uThermal. Really feel like he needs to repair some of these units up as well, because I wouldn't be surprised if Reynor decides to go in for wave number 2 right when these 2-2 upgrades finish up. He's going to go for more Zerglings. That means usually he's saving up some additional gas too. And I wouldn't mind seeing a lot of additional Banelings being added on there, right? Like 2-2 upgrades make this force so much more powerful. Command center, once again, nice and shiny, polished to perfection. That one, once again, at full hit points, but by the time that is the case, we also now see the Zerg player once again maxed out. Liberator over here apparently being a little bit of a nuisance. That one will be cleaned up right now by the Queens inside of the main base. Scans right there confirm exactly what is going on as well. 4th command center not quite done just yet, or I guess I should say the 5th command center. This time around, no planetary fortress there either. Corruptors once again hunting for the battle cruisers. Battle cruisers already utilized their tactical jump. Lynx, Banes, Roaches, and Ravagers once again moving forward, going into that juicy, soft underbelly of the Terran force. A lot of the SCVs will fall over at the 3rd base. By the way, 17 drones also went down somewhere. With most of the Corruptors now out of the equation, though, that means that these battlecruisers are going to have a field day. I think only one battlecruiser ended up falling. 2 more are on that production tab. These Roaches and Zerglings are stuck, though. But Lings and Banes now ready to roll into the natural here instead. Oh, there's still some units here on that ramp. That's a really good position, all things considered. I normally don't like clumping up units like that, but that was a really good position there by uThermal, creating just enough wiggle room for the Hellions to make their way out of the base. And right now it looks like Reynor is on the defensive, right? Like he's forced to go back. Ooh, the Zerglings right there hunting, trying to get the wraparound on the Hellions. Not quite gonna be the case. A lot of the creep tumors now also get picked off. And you know what? With the battlecruisers here, they're going to be able to just simply fly right over those mineral patches in the center and maybe go for the counterattack. Is there enough right now to get rid of all of these battlecruisers? I see a bunch of Corruptors. I see a few Queens. There's a few Spore Crawlers as well. There we go. Once again, Yamato Cannons being utilized. That means a bunch of those Corruptors immediately get shot out of the sky. One of the BCs immediately tactical jumped back as well. There's still some of the battlecruisers remaining. Most of the Terran ground army, however, is gone. Excellent micro once again by uThermal, keeping these units around until the last possible moment. Just teleport them home. Okay, there you go. I was gonna say, just go home, man. He got a little bit too brave right there. A little bit too brave. Still though, since most of the Corruptors are gone, you know what? I say that. They can definitely still pick up like 3 battlecruisers here, though. Oh, there's 1. There's 2. Well, a 3rd one won't go down. And actually, you know what? All of the Corruptors will get picked off here, too. That was like 6 Corruptors for, I guess, 2 battlecruisers. Not actually the worst trade in the world. But I guess this kind of takes the wind out of the sails of uThermal, though. Like, are you going to be able to really continue that aggression right now? Reynor knows it. Goes back to droning at this point too. Man, these games were excellent, especially this one and the previous one. Really sick. Still no 4th command center, and that's really starting to worry me. Main base is running low, 3rd base is even running low, natural obviously running low then as well. And in the meantime, Zerg secured a 5th right here on the left-hand side of the map. 4th obviously happily up and running here too. This may very well just turn out to be a macro game where it's just about the numbers, right? Links right here confirm. Okay, there's no 4th base. Totally fine with me. I don't see a 4th command center on the production tab either. So maybe uThermal wants to go for something similar like he won with in game number... what was that? Game number 3. Where he just puts all of his eggs in one basket, makes one massive force, and then pushes. Without a 4th base, I guess you can also lift up your command center and move it over, but I'm not sure. I do think he's giving a lot of time right now, though, especially if you want to go for the 2-2 upgrades. By the time that these upgrades finish, Zerg will be maxed out. Again. Okay, so the Hellions get picked off. A couple of drones end up going down. A few Zerglings also found their grave over here. But I think this all should come down to a bigger Zerg army, right? I would love to actually see some carapace upgrades as well for these Zerg ground units. I think we can afford it. Okay, yeah, so he's indeed gonna fly over the main command center towards the 4th instead. He kind of needs to, right? The only issue right now, though, with this many Corruptors, Terran is gonna have a hard time holding onto the bases. There's caustic spray being utilized on one of the bases. That command center taking a tremendous amount of damage already. Caustic spray does have a long cooldown, so it's not going to be available. It's not going to be available for like another 20 seconds. It's not like he's going to be able to continue spraying over that command center. But still, though, this is putting pressure on Terran, right? There's one siege tank. Boom, it's gone. Another command center right now being produced, but with the creep spread this far out, Queens can also join in the fray and can help out when it comes to that anti-air. Anti-armor missile being utilized as well. That's going to reduce the damage right there of those Corruptors significantly, but I mean, they have so much damage. It's too much. Reynor is the one who obtains victory in game number 4. Alrighty, so that brings this epic series to a conclusion on Triton LE. Game number 5 of this series. Spawning here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map and playing with the blue SCVs, we have none other than uThermal, and his opponent in the opposite corner with the red drones, we have Reynor. Do you think they're gonna go for anything crazy again? Reynor's really been the one who's going for a variety of stuff, right? Like, he's going for a massive variety when it comes to his pressures and his macros. We'll see if uThermal wants to go for something more aggressive in this game as well. I mean, he is a big fan of going for like Mass Reaper styles and all that, but the thing is, none of the maps in the current map pool really are very good for that style. I mean, this map, for example, right? If these debris right over here were not there and you had a big ramp leading into the main base, I can guarantee you that he would go for that kind of strategy at this point in the game. He's a big fan of pulling that kind of strategy out in the final map of a series. However, right now, like, most of the maps are not very good for Terran, if I'm being brutally honest with you. For example, this little jump up plateau obviously can help, but it's not going to be enough to go for like some you know, heavy cheese. Because if that's the case, I mean, all Reynor needs to do is hold on to this little section over here rather than like literally the whole ramp, right? Like, that makes it so much easier to defend. So I wouldn't be surprised if uThermal just once again goes for a more macro-focused style. Looks like it's gonna indeed be that command center on the low ground. Orbital command coming up. We see a single Reaper being produced here too. There we go. Command center will start up here at 1 minute and 39 seconds. Same can be said right now for Reynor. Not going for the pool first, which he does favor from time to time. Just going for that hatch gas pool. I wonder what he wants to go for here, actually. The interesting part about Reynor is that I usually view him as like a very quintessential macro-focused Zerg. But what makes, for example, someone like Sero really scary these days is that he's not only phenomenal at macro, Sero is extremely good when it comes to playing those aggressive builds too. And it really makes you the complete package. I think a couple of years ago, or really like a year and a half ago or so for Reynor, he wasn't nearly as good as he is right now. Like, he had like strengths and you know, he was very good. Like, he had very strong strengths, if that makes any sense. But his weaknesses also were pretty apparent. Now, it seems like he's increased the amount of strengths that he has, and he doesn't really have any weaknesses anymore. Does that make any sense? Like, he really has been practicing to become that full package, like that complete package of Zerg. It's one of the things actually that we critiqued Sero on for a while as well. Sero always playing macro, just playing the same game every time, and he was better at it than anyone else, so it worked out for him. But at some point, and actually Reynor pointed this out as well in a Zerg vs Zerg post-series or pre-series interview. He's like, yeah, the only way I can win against Sero is if I just cut a lot of corners, because I know he's going to play macro. So if I play macro, or if I know he's going to be playing macro, I can just skip a lot of really important upgrades and just play more greedy than I would ordinarily do. And well, Sero obviously took that to heart. He's like, you know what? I'm going to start going for more aggressive builds as well. And these days, Sero does mix in cheese. Maybe like, I don't know, 30% or so of his games. Which means that you're not going to be able to cut a corner anymore, because he's going to trash you if that's the case. And, well, we'll see what Reynor is going to look like in like 2 years from now. I'm really curious. I'm really curious. He's improving so much quicker than most other players. Still, even at like, I think he's like considered like rank 3 or 4 or something on the planet right now. He's still improving rapidly, so we'll see what it's going to be like. Actually, fun fact about Reynor, he was streaming the other day. I remember back in the day when it was uncommon for a non-Korean player to make their way into the Korean Grandmaster League ladder. Reynor was streaming as a rank 1 Grandmaster on Korea. You know how ridiculous that is? The rank 1 Grandmaster in Korea. That's insane. That's insane. He was only in Korea for a couple of days at that point. Already steamrolled ahead. Straight to rank 1 GM. That's incredibly impressive. He just pretended like it was nothing though. He's like, yeah, whatever. It's just ladder. Alright then, fair enough. Alright, once again, quick third command center right here for uThermal. This is actually a very curious build. I haven't really been highlighting this very much just yet. But notice how he's only just now adding on the starport. He's gone for 3 barracks before starport and also 3 command centers before the starport too. This is one of those builds that basically lets the Zerg player do whatever they like for the early game. So there's a couple of Hellions out. Yeah, they will force out a couple of Zerglings, and there's actually quite a heavy amount of Roaches too. Looks like once again he wants to go for a bit of a Roach-based push. But I mean, Stimpack, right? Stimpack is done already. 5 minutes into the game, Stimpack is done. I'm not sure if this push here for Sarah is going to be, or for Reynor rather, is going to be that great. We'll see. +1/+1 starts up right now too, so uThermal has no idea that this push is happening. Right now though, he should be aware. There's only 2 Ravagers, which is not enough to one-shot a Liberator or a Siege Tank. So I would love to see the addition of another Ravager. Maybe at this point though, he knows that that's not going to be the case. There's not going to be that Ravager. Immediately upon seeing the Terran army, a lair starts up and he goes back to droning. Okay. So I think if Reynor moved up that ramp, he's basically walking with open arms into a Terran army that's extremely powerful. uThermal purposefully not stimming his forces there yet. Only wants to do that at the absolute latest possible moment. There's the Medivacs though, and that means that you can go for some insane counterattacks at this point in the game too. Okay, very impressive move there actually from Reynor. Like, I notice this in my games quite a bit when I'm playing any of the 3 races. When I'm committed to a push, I'm committed, right? Like, I'm like, okay, now I'm gonna go. I've been building up to this over the last 6 minutes or so. I'm gonna go for the push right now because this is what I've been leading up to and this is my strategy. But Reynor looked at that ramp once. He's like, nope, way too much. I'm gonna go home. I'm done. I don't know exactly what build this is, or maybe he does, but I'm not gonna even try. Very high-level decision-making there. Here's those Medivacs unloading their Marines over at the 4th base of the Zerg. Queens are ready. Not that many units though, but a couple of Roaches and Ravagers are available already. Queens target firing down the Medivacs, of course. Good little bit of micro there from uThermal. It's gonna be able to heal up those units with relative ease. 1-1 upgrades are done by the time that 1-1 starts. So this is the big disadvantage over here, right? Because he wanted to go for the push earlier, 1-1 is extremely late. He's gonna start at 1-1 basically around the same time as uThermal starts up 2-2. And I know I really hammer on this a lot, but upgrades are extremely important in these Marine versus Zergling based battles. Both of the units benefit greatly from any of those upgrades. So being a full set of upgrades ahead is massive. This opens up a really good attacking opportunity as well for uThermal by the time that these 2 upgrades finish. So he's gonna go +2/+1. Or +2/+2/+1 right here. So this is the attack weapon upgrade for the siege tanks. He's going to be able to go for an extremely potent timing attack where he's going to be like 3 upgrades ahead of his opponent. So we'll see what he's going to be able to make work of that. Oh. He's like, what are you doing there in the bush? Are you hiding with your lings and banelings? Right there in those... yeah, no, he's not there anymore, buddy. It's not going to happen. At the same time, Marines here in the center of the map too. And actually, these Lynx and Banes, for some reason, got away. Okay, they won't. Oh, beautiful target firing there. A couple of Marines did not make evac. But still, a couple of Banes already were picked off. And the more Banes you can pick off right now, the easier the fight inevitably does become. I think he wants to go for a big push when 2-2 finishes. Reynor, though, in the meantime, has also been mustering up a massive force. Even though he's behind upgrades, maybe he wants to hit right when his 1-1 finishes, which is obviously, you know, the best opportunity for him to potentially be somewhat ahead. But I mean, look at this. Oh, man. It looks like both players actually want to engage right now. Both players want to clash. It's still, I would say, about 20 seconds, maybe 30 seconds away from these upgrades finishing up too. So you got to be careful right now. At this point, the upgrades are even. Oh, God. You don't actually want to fight here. Beautiful corrosive biles. Picks up 2 of the siege tanks. One of them still does live. I really feel like he shouldn't be fighting yet. I really feel like this is a mistake. Yeah, okay. I misjudged how long those upgrades were still going on. But, I mean, he just lost a massive chunk of his army. And now the upgrades are finishing up. I mean, that's like 40 supply down the drain. And, yeah, now you're fighting when the upgrades are even, right? Like, you don't want to do that. You really, really want to try and prevent that from happening. So when you're retreating right when the army upgrades finish up, that's when you know you did something wrong. Good micro once again, though, for uThermal. We've seen him pull a rabbit out of a hat with Marines earlier. He's very good at that. Very, very good. Okay. So, even though he missed his 2-2 timing, keep in mind, he's still ahead. He can go for the 3-3 timing instead, which will once again finish before Zerk will even really be able to start up 3-3. So there will still be a big upgrade advantage here for Terran. And he's certainly going to be able to make work of that as well. I would love to see him push right when 3-3 finishes up. The only problem at that point in the game is that Zerk is likely going to be maxed out. Actually, he's already maxed out right now. And he's also going to have Ultralisks. Exactly. So you're going to go up against like Ultra, Viper, Link, Bane, Queen with Roaches and Ravages and whatnot left over as well. That fight is way harder to win because Zerk has way more tools at their disposal. Apparently, though, uThermal feeling comfortable making that exact move. Target firing down even the hatchery here for a little bit. Oop, nope, not going to happen, buddy. Oh, no, maybe it will happen. Maybe it will happen. No magical recalls here for the... You come back here! Jimmy, come back here! I'm tired of you! Okay, well, not gonna happen though. That was actually quite a bit of energy wasted. At the same time, even though I was staring right there at the Viper minigame, we also had a Marine minigame on the right-hand side of the map. These Marines ended up killing 10 drones, although I don't think they're gonna be able to live that much longer. Once again, the Terran player is moving out on the map though. This is a beeline straight towards this newly acquired base for the Zerk. Issue is, 3-3 upgrades not just done, and here we go, Zerkling's coming in immediately. This is what Reynor is very well known for. Oh, well, you know what? Adrenal Glands does get denied. That's that Zerkling speed attack upgrade, or attack speed upgrade, rather. Most of the SCVs evacuated on out of there as well. Base was killed. Right now, the Marines still inside of that main base going to town. Looks like one of the medevacs ended up getting picked off as well. And it looks like, actually, you know what? The Terran is winning the fight at every single angle. Chitinous plating was picked off as well. 5 Ultralisk already queued up. Without chitinous plating, there are going to be paperweights, especially once 3-3 finishes. Ooh, that fight could have gone absolutely terrible there for uThermal, but he won the fight on all 3 fronts. I think he should just go. I think he should pull all units across the map right now. I wouldn't mind that at all. Try and drive the nail in the coffin. Well, Ultras still are strong, right? They take so much more damage without chitinous plating. So chitinous plating, for those of you wondering, is just a straight up armor improvement for the Ultralisks, which is huge. It's a big deal. Okay, here we go. So look at this. Look at this Terran force. He's still 3 upgrades ahead of his opponent. +3/+3. And then also the attack upgrade for the siege tanks. Fighting on creep though, not something you necessarily want to do. The Banelings were looking for that juicy connection on those Marines. Some of them got what they were looking for, but certainly not every single one of them. Siege tanks right now sieging up as well. Ultralisk are taking a tremendous amount of damage. Massive blinding cloud on top of all of those siege tanks. But right now, most that remains is just Roaches, Ravagers, and then I guess a couple of Ultralisk as well. Reinforcements of the Terran, though, are huge, right? In the meantime, there's also a drop inside of that main base. He's going to be able to pick up and destroy the entirety of the main base right there of Reynor. Reynor actually scrambling right now, really trying to get some value out of his army. Luckily for him, uThermal keeps on taking those fights on creep, and while it works about half of the time, the other half it doesn't, right? So that was, I guess, still like the best you could make of a bad situation there for Reynor. He hasn't really had the resources to transition to, like, for example, Infestors or something along those lines. Base on the high ground, though, did finish, and that's big. Yeah, main base is gone, base over here is gone as well, base over here is gone too. But they're still mining here for the Zerk, and he still has 62 workers going to town. Now this hurts. He's bleeding out a ton of units. These Marines are getting insane value. If you look right here at the resources lost, you can see that Zerk lost way more stuff. Way more stuff. These Marines worth their weight in gold. Chitinous plating, once again being researched here. Once that upgrade finishes up, this is going to be much, much better for the Ultralisks. And I think this time around it will. Still though, it's a long upgrade. It's not done yet. I'm not going to make any calls for how long that upgrade still takes, but it takes a while. Oh my god. Oh god. Oh god. If that... Oh, dude, that's massive. Oh, that's so big. Oh, dude. There you go. Get out of there. In the meantime, the Bio Forces trying to get the value right here on top of that high ground as well. Ultralisks, once again, paper weights. Hatchery falls because 3-3 Marines are scary. They got rid of that structure real quick. Excellent micro here as well by uThermal. Splitting off that weakened medevac that was hit with parasitic bomb. In the meantime, those drops are still going to town, and this is an extreme case of multitasking right now. uThermal trying his best to out-multitask the Zerk player. Earlier in the series, we saw that the Zerk player could easily keep up to speed with that. So far, though, I'm starting to get a little bit more worried. Without the chitinous plating upgrade, these maxed out fights really are going to be an issue. uThermal is going to continuously expand here as well, now establishing a planetary fortress on that high ground. Another Ultralisk cavern was found. I mean, there's not even an upgrade started up in that one just yet. Oh, he's trying to back off. Look how quick they fall. Did you see that? That's massive. Only using a small chunk of his army right now. There we go. The rest of the Marines also being utilized. Parasitic Bomb, or rather Blinding Cloud, being utilized on those Marines too. That made them micro forward towards all of those Banes. But, I mean, the majority of the Banelings were still picked off. Once again, Stimpack being utilized as well. These Medivacs alive and well. Reynor calls GG. And that means that uThermal, in a very well-fought series, is the one who obtains the victory. I do hope that you enjoyed watching this series of games. If you did, you know what to do. Hit that like button. Do me a favor. It's one of the easiest ways of supporting the channel. If you also wanted to see more of this kind of content, hit that subscribe button so you get a notification as soon as I upload more. But for now, I want to thank you for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile, alright? And I will see you once again in the next one.